Good evening, everyone. I'm Deputy Mayor Aaron Toole. I'd like to call the meeting to order tonight at 7:00 p.m. We respectfully acknowledge that Bay-Westfield exists on the traditional Woollastic Way land. The lands of the Wabanaki people are recognized in a series of peace and friendship treaties to establish an ongoing relationship of peace, friendship, and mutual respect between equal nations. The river that runs by our town is known as Woollastic, along which live Woollastic, the people of the beautiful and bountiful river. We, the staff and elected representatives, pay respect to the elders, past and present, and descendants of this land. So thanks everyone, and welcome to everybody who's watching. And you might wonder why I'm here. Bay-Westfield sends her regrets this evening. She's recuperating from surgery. So under her mayor's comments, I'll have a very brief deputy mayor's comments, if that's all right. What I just want to say is last Thursday night, you might have seen on our town page that I had the honor to present awards at our volunteer celebration in recognition of National Volunteer Week. The recipients were from various Bay-Westfield agencies, boards, commissions, committees, departments, organizations, community groups, including sports, arts, recreation, culture, and schools. So I was also extremely pleased to be able to take part in recognizing 5 individuals with a Mayor's Milestone Volunteer Award. This is something that Mayor Merrifield created. It was an inaugural award. And it was presented to acknowledge volunteers who committed over 20 years of service to the community. And these volunteers were brought to us, people that were identified by others in the community and their groups as deserving recognition. And they're people who generally don't want the recognition, so it was a great thing to see. And the year's recipients were Debbie Childs McCluskey, Brenda Graham, Barbara Thomas, Keith Thomas, and John Weber. And the individuals are true leaders in our community. And so on behalf of the town, I just wanted to take these remarks to again extend appreciation to all the volunteers in our community. So that's where I end. So this time I'm going to have a record of attendance, and I want to acknowledge that everybody is here, all councillors, except as I mentioned, Mayor Merrifield, who is sending her regrets. So moving on, we have agenda approval, item 5. And the motion is that the Council of the Town of Bay-Westfield approve the agenda of April 24th, 2023. With one addition, it's the addition of item 15A, Housing Accelerator Market Application. So do I have a motion? Councilor Murphy, second. And Councilor McIntosh. All in favor? Aye. Approve or against? All right, motion passed. So number 6 is disclosure of conflict of interest, and is there any? Hearing none, we can move on to item 7. Public hearings, presentations, delegations, and petitions, and there is none on the agenda for this evening, so I'll move on to item 8. And the first item is the regular council minutes of April 11th, 2023. And the motion is that the Council of the Town of Bay-Westfield adopt the minutes of the regular meeting of April 11th, 2023 as presented. Do you have a motion? So moved. Councilor Evans, any second? Councilor Gotham? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. So moving to item 9, we do have an item of unfinished business, and it was a matter that was brought up on that April 11th meeting, and it's the intersection review for Park Avenue and Lima Street. So, CAO, can I ask you to speak a bit to this item?
Sure, deputies. Mayor, I'm going to turn it over to the Works Commissioner, but before I do that, I just want to iterate that traffic engineers have not changed their mind about the positioning of the stop sign. And only that other mitigating steps can be taken, which are limited in this case to a memorial sign going ahead. But I'll turn it over to the Works Commissioner to any further elaboration.
Yeah, no, I guess just I guess start back to the original request from the engineer, traffic engineer study was to review the intersection of Leela and Park Avenue, in which the recommendation was to put a stop sign on Leela entering Park, and take the sign that was currently only on one side of the park, take the stop sign off on that. Then there was a concerned question of possibly leaving that stop sign on Park still there. So there would be 2 stops on the T intersection, and the traffic engineer looked at that, and again with the low traffic volume, and 2 stops on the T intersection is not normal. So he's still recommending that the only 1 stop sign be on the Leela coming down, and the Park be a through street on both sides, going down and coming up. So that would be the same. But he also said there's a possibility of recommendation to put something on the back, or I guess on the opposite side of the T intersection, maybe like a checkerboard sign, to just inform the drivers coming down that they can turn left, coming down through, but to keep the traffic signs as recommended, and again, with the motion is include that in the next traffic bylaw.
Okay, so I'll read the motion, then we can discuss. So the motion is that the council of the town of Bay-Westfield remove the stop sign on Park Avenue at the intersection of Park Avenue and Layla Street, and add a new stop sign on Layla Street before entering Park Avenue in the new traffic bylaw. Do I have a motion? Councilor McDonald, so second. Councilor Berger. Is there any discussions, questions, comments on the motion?
I've been reading the report that Bruce said. I see that, understand coming up the hill, Park Street, that it needs, they drive through, as soon as they come down the hill, they try to T-bone, so I understand why they changed this signage.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, so all in favor?
I,
Any opposed? And motion is carried. Thank you, Council. And then the next one, we're moving on to item 10 on the agenda, and we're back to bylaws. And I'll just reiterate what the mayor has said before at the beginning of this one, is that we're going through a lot of bylaws in these meetings as a result of local governance reform. We're taking the opportunity to go through the bylaws to make sure that they apply to our new ward, and also we're taking the opportunity to update them as we go through. So we're seeing a few of these that we've seen before, and some are new. So I will start with the first one. It's there's third readings by title enactment of the following town of Bay-Westfield bylaw, and 10A is volunteer fire rescue department bylaw. Third reading by title. Bylaw number PS002 respecting the Bay-Westfield Volunteer Fire Rescue Department. That the council of the town of Bay-Westfield adopt the volunteer fire rescue department bylaw PS002. Do I have a motion? Councilor Barron, second. Councilor Hoffman. Any discussions, questions, comments on the motion? John, you want to discuss further?
So I was just going to clarify for council, deputy mayor. We've added clauses in there surrounding the safe usage of fireworks. And also a significant clause that was, we removed the section where the town was automatically liable for buildings torn down to prevent the spread of fire. That's a significant liability for the town to assume. We do not have the financial capacity to do that. We are not able to borrow money if something like that happens. And further, there's homeowners insurance to be able to cover it. The other thing too is most municipalities don't have a clause like this. That doesn't mean to say that the homeowners insurance company won't, try and sue us because, hey, what other actions were available? We can cross that road when we get to it. For an example, if there's a fire and the chief determines that, we're in trouble here, we need to knock this house down so that it doesn't get the rest of the neighborhood. If it's a $600,000 house, we can't afford to replace it. So why are we making commitments that we can't keep up at the end of the day? So that's the significant reason why that clause has been removed.
Just in the last reading, I thought there was a section of demolition of buildings. Okay, that was it. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions on? All in favor?
I,
Any opposed? The motion is carried. Thanks, council.
Just for council's information, the chief is still developing an appendix for the bylaw, which is a definition is the wrong word, but better isn't the right word. Yeah, no, I'm just trying to say, we're going to be including levels of service in the appendix. And that'll help council determine the cost of the fire department, set of things, but also what our residents can expect for what they're going to receive for service.
I can move on to 10B, which is another bylaw, the temporary business bylaw. I guess I'll ask John to give you some background before I read the motion on this one.
Yeah, this actually turned out to be a lot of work. I'm not going to say who requested that. But anyways, when we did the first first two readings, the request was made that we update the language. It's not common language now to use hawkers, peddlers, and transit traders. So council knows, didn't see any references to those. So it's still essentially the same bylaw. We have made some changes that I mentioned before. The other thing too is because of those changes, I know we have one clause that's kind of awkward, or it reads awkward, but it makes sense. So when you look at the section that talks about licenses, before we could just say a hawker's license could be for 6 weeks, transit traders could be up to December 31st, and then you can get a license that would start, say, maybe the students, want to set up the painting business and it's going to start next week. So before we could define which license for what, now we don't have those reference points per se, and we just sort of try to articulate how long the licenses are. So when you look at that section, when Brock and I read it, it made sense. Please trust us. Because we tried looking at how we write that differently, and we couldn't really come up with a way to express it differently.
So I'll read the motion on and discuss. So the motion is third reading by title for bylaw number P3004 respecting temporary businesses. Motion is that the Council of Town of Grand Bay-Westfield adopt the temporary business bylaw PD-004.
So move.
Second? Councilor Murphy? Discussion? And I just want to thank John because I think I've been annoying him that's we updated.
No, I think it's annoying.
No, I do appreciate those. I think it's a better, more updated document. I appreciate that. So all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion is carried. Okay, and the next one, which I think also was a lot of work, is the 10C, which is the noise bylaw. This is also a third reading, so I ask you to give a bit of background on the changes on this one.
Yeah, so I want to thank Amanda for helping me on this, because we watched that part 21 minutes that council discussed the noise bylaw, and I think we got it this time. And because council bounced all over the place. So at the end of the day, what we heard council say on the video was that fireworks are allowed year-round. They're allowed to 11 o'clock. But Council also asked for a limited period of time for New Year's Eve. Well, a limited period of time can be broadly interpreted by reasonable people. So what I did, I won't let Amanda be thrown under the bus here. What I did was say from 11:55 to 12:15, New Year's Eve is when we can have fireworks past 11 o'clock. So fireworks are permitted year-round, but not after 11 o'clock, except for New Year's Eve, when they're permitted from 11:55 to 12:15. That's what we heard on the tape.
I can read the motion that we can discuss. So it's third reading by title, bylaw number GG-010 respecting noise. And the motion is that the Council of the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield adopt the noise bylaw GG-010. That's the motion. Councilor Bellins, and second. Councilor McIntyre. Any questions or comments?
We made a lot of noise last time. Trust me. It's over.
But it was before 11.
I like it. It's clear and concise.
Clear.
Yeah, you can make noise till 11.
I had a question that I had regarding, but actually John just cleared it up for me in your description of the fireworks. So fireworks are allowed anytime, just an exception past the 11 o'clock. Okay, good. That's good.
This is a good, nice, concise read. I like this one.
It's a lot of work for us.
Less is more.
For me,
Less is more.
more work for us.
So we're all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you again. So moving straight, we now have 10D, which is the curfew bylaw. And I guess I'll, before we get to the motion, you want me to suspend the rules for a minute just to see if, so the way this is read is if we are still wanting to proceed with the repeal, because the decision of council last time was to repeal this bylaw. And there was a note included from the RCMP. I didn't know if anybody had any more discussion, wanted to put, or if we're still good to continue on the training we went before.
Sounds like it's still on review.
Then I'll read curfew by title, the first reading, and I'm not, this motion kind of seems to read that we're adopting it, but I believe it's we're adopting to repeal, so the way it sounds. So it is first reading by title, bylaw number GG-012 respecting curfew, that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield, it says adopt by title the curfew bylaw GG-012. Can I have a motion? Councilor Murphy, second. Councilor Billings? Any discussion on this? And again, it's to adopt the motion, or to adopt the bylaw that repeals the bylaw, that's the word of the minutes. If I get it correctly, we'll massage the language to make sure we have it right in there.
Sorry. Just for clarity, council's permission, we're really repealing the curfew bylaw for Ward 1. There is no curfew bylaw for Ward 2.
Okay.
So Amanda's looking up what that bylaw number is. So that's what we want to repeal. So I think we just thought by title, the curfew bylaw, and we'll provide the number when we dig it up. 4? So number 4. That's what we're repealing. And then, sorry, Worship. It's on. Can't come to deputy.
I know, I was
Worship.
So all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And do I go by second reading by summary as well? Would you do that tonight to get
Yes, the bylaw number 4.
So second reading by summary is bylaw number GG4.
GG012 to repeal bylaw number 4.
Okay, GG012 to repeal bylaw number 4 respecting curfew. So the bylaw to repeal the town of Grand Bay-Westfield curfew bylaw. And then so that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield adopt by summary the curfew bylaw, GG-012. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Councilor Rockwell, second. Councilor Burke, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So thank you, council. So then that's a record on bylaws. So there's 4, so number 10 is done. So move on to new business, item 11 on the agenda, so just like to put that on my screen. So the first one is 11A, which is the charitable organization donation request policy. So I'd like to ask John to give us some background intro on this one as well.
Council, we've had some informal rules that we follow regarding organizations like Cancer Society and whatnot applying for donations. I'm going to turn this over to Rick, who did the heavy lifting in drafting this policy together, and give council an overview.
Thanks, John. Yeah, really it's trying to make sure that decisions that we make during the budget process and then decisions that we make as an administration or council for donations are guided by the limits in the budget. So we're not going to put specific dollar values in the policy itself. Those can be made during that budget process that all of us contribute to. The language around the specific sort of primary charity, that might be new to everybody, but when you look at the total numbers, the only organization that we contribute to consistently, and it's happened for 15 years, I think I learned today, is to Pro Kids. So whether it was intentional or not, we really have selected that as an organization that benefits the community as a whole, and then privileged kids participating in sport and arts. So that language doesn't have to be, necessarily public to everybody that this is our charity of choice, but it'll help guide those decisions when you're trying to determine if you do want to make that selection. And then otherwise, it's just setting sort of limits on individual charity donations so that you don't go too big early in the year and realize your budget's gone. You have to sort of show some restraint, or even say you're going to consider it and make the decisions later in the year once you understand how many requests you have. I mean, obviously you do have the council discretionary spending to move into if you want to, but those choices can be made with the context of how much you budgeted during the year.
Sorry, we brought up Pro Kids as an example. Pro Kids doesn't quite fit here. It's kind of like in Business St. John. It had a regional agreement to set this up, And the dollar amount that we pay is a formula based on population. So that's, sorry.
And to take that further, it was so that the administration costs were covered by the communities. And when the dollars are donated to Pro Kids, that money directly goes to the kids.
The motion is that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield consider the merits of the policy and provide feedback to administration on amendments for the development of an official policy to be brought to council for adoption in the 2024 budget. Can I have a motion? Councilor Murphy, second. Councilor McIntosh. Any discussion, questions? I want to thank you for bringing this forward. I know several councilors have mentioned that something like this they would like to see, so this is a really good document. So we just provide our comments as we go. Policy.
Well, you can, sorry, I was reading. What did council decide?
No, so, we have
Oh, because you can adopt it tonight if you like it the way it is.
are there any comments or
Unless
changes?
you see changes.
I'd have to review the motion probably, because I have the motion here that consider the merits to be brought back to council in 2024, but if we're all good, I can.
I like it.
Yeah.
It's a good idea.
So, good, okay.
Just change the motion.
Change the motion, so we'll back up, pretend I didn't do that. So the motion is that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield adopt the charitable organization donation request policy. And can I have a mover? Councilor Murphy, second? Councilor McIntosh Lawrence? Okay, and all in favor? Any opposed? All right, so thank you very much, it's moved faster than we thought. That was a 2024 motion, so appreciate it. All right, so next one is item 11B, which is the local business listing policy. And I can ask John to give some background.
So first, I just want to let council know that I spoke with my colleagues, the rural service manager. Yeah, rural service manager. His title's changed. Terry Keating, and I spoke with the CAO for St. John, Brent. And they both support us expanding our boundaries for what's considered local business. And they support the way it's written here. Further, Brock and I met with the new local business group that's trying to get off the ground. And we mentioned to them what we're trying to do by expanding the boundary, and they were wholeheartedly supportive of this change. So just to let council know that our neighbors and the local businesses support this. But anyways, I'm going to turn it over to our communications manager, Brock, who did the heavy lifting on this policy.
Thank you, John. And to John's point, yes, one of the goals, as council is aware, in the economic development action plan includes having a listing available of resources and services for residents and visitors. The listing has been available on the town's website with local businesses listed within the town limits. And this policy, to John's point, includes a recommendation by administration to extend the boundaries of the listing to include areas just outside of town limits.
Okay, so I can make a motion now. It's that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield approve the local business listing policy as presented to come into effect April 25th, 2023. The following areas understood as local business. First bullet, within the boundaries of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield. Second bullet, Westfield Road in the city of St. John, between the St. John Marina and the Grand Bay-Westfield town limits. And third bullet, those parts of Fundy Rural District, including Route 177, up to and including Lossford, along 102 from the town limits up to and including Public Landing, and the Kingston Peninsula along Harding Point Landing Road / Route 845 for 12 kilometers. Do I have a motion? Councilor Brown, is the second? Councilor Brown? Any discussions, questions?
12 kilometers may seem like an odd number to include in a policy. Council indicated last time that they would like to see that boundary include yip siders. And I think they came in at 10.3 or 11.3 kilometers. So just rounded up to 12. Okay.
Just a comment, Deputy Mayor. I think this is great for our town in providing the value proposition for people who wish to consider moving here. We are one large community. The signs may say welcome to Bay-Westfield or whatever, but when you're looking for activities to do or to go to Yipside or whatever, we are just one community. So it's, from a business listing standpoint, there's a single point for somebody to go online to find out what the different activities are and places, so this is great news.
Any other comments? So all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried, thank you. We're moving on now to the financial side. So it's item 11C, and it's general revenue fund, first quarter financial report. Now let's see what we've done.
Before I turn it over to our CFO, James, just want to say that we're on track, but it's still only March when the numbers are good for, March 31st, and James and I are still nervous. This is a tight year for us. We've kind of taken on a lot with purchasing snow control equipment, the fire truck, but I'll let James get into some of the meat and potatoes for council.
Yes, Steve, yeah, it is early in the year, we don't have a perfect crystal ball, but we are forecasting that currently we are on budget. There's still a great deal of work to be completed this year, and there will be many challenges ahead of us. As you can remember, this was a challenging budget to put together. There was impacts of inflation, there was parameters set by local government's reform that limited the size of the budget. Discipline will be required from staff and council to stay within the bounds of the budget for the remainder of 2023. I'll give you an example. There are capital expenditures and capital work to be done this year. Tenders may come in over budget, and it may be a requirement to reduce work scopes to stay within budget.
I'll read the motion. Go ahead, John.
Just to let the council know, I received an email today that'll be in your council package saying, look what's happening in Westfield Road, it needs work. We agree. We don't have the money to do all the work that we'd like to do. So just as an example, we need fiscal discipline this year.
So the motion is that the council of the town of Bay-Westfield receive and file the 2023 first quarter financial report as presented. Any motion?
Move.
Councilor Malcolm, second. Councilor Jones, and any comments or questions? Please quiet. So all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried, thank you. And moving right on, still on finance, on the sewage utility first quarter financial report. Again, I can ask John and James to.
Yeah, we're just up $324. It's hardly anything, but I'll let James speak to the details.
Thank you. Yes, the budget is on track so far for the sewage utility in 2023. One thing wanted to highlight and report on is that we have had some challenges collecting user fees. There's still 11 users that owe for 2022. We had sent them in March, notices were sent to those households, giving them 60 days notice that they must pay, otherwise we'll start disconnection procedures. When that happens, we have a server formally hand the notice to the resident. They charge for that fee. They charge a $500 fee if we disconnect, and a $500 fee on reconnection.
I was just going to build on what the CFO said. $500. I don't know how long we've had that. We need to review the operational cost. The town is in cost recovery. In items like this, even though I would like to make a profit, I don't think that we should be making a profit. But at the very minimum, if it costs $750 to disconnect and $750 to connect, that's what we should be charging. So we'll be doing a review, and for 2024, I think we'll bring a new policy that will reflect operating costs. And then for the budget year, we'll outline in a schedule and a policy that based on this year's budget and here's what QP's being paid, depreciation, all these things. Here's the operational cost to do the work of disconnecting. So that'll be for 2024.
Let's do the motion first.
We haven't had to disconnect for quite a while. This is the first time in a long time that we have had people not pay. So I hope those people that can't pay or haven't paid, that they've received this letter and they come into the town office, and if they need to make arrangements to do so, there's lots of opportunities with this community to deal with this. And people need to pay for their sewerage.
As I say to Councillor, our standing policy is talk to us,
Yeah.
we'll work with you.
Exactly.
The last thing we want to do is disconnect services.
Yeah.
However, I will say that we have pounded steaks
Yeah.
before people paid. And I'm hoping that, we can get things paid before we pound steaks or before we drive equipment up to the road.
Mhm.
In no way, forms, or need do we want to disconnect, but we will.
And at the end of the day, if we've done everything we can to try to reach these people and let them know, and they still haven't paid, the rest of us have paid. And it's hard, but that's part of our bylaws.
If you cut out the disconnect, sometimes some of the sewer things on town property, like they're close to the edge, you gotta cut it to pavement so that more money to pave the roads over, also the section dig up, so except it's not gonna cover it.
Yeah, I'm not sure where our cutoffs are. The Works Commissioner will have to speak to that in general.
The actual road would be at the boundary line between the road or wherever it serves the property line. That would be the boundary line, we take it down, cut it next way. And I believe there's a $1,500 charge, because the intent is to encourage them to pay. We don't want to disconnect. So it's cheaper to pay than to go through disconnect.
Yeah.
So pay. Like,
The motion is that the Council of the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield receive and file the sewage utility 2023 first quarter financial report as presented. Motion. Councilor Patrick, second. John?
For the residents of Ward 2, their water and wastewater is through the province, it's not through the town. Just so there isn't any misunderstanding,
This is just Ward 1.
we are not sending stuff out to Ward 2 residents, just for clarification.
Any other comments or questions before we go on? Okay, so all in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. All right, so the next one is the big one, one's giving everybody a bit of a stomach ache, so it's reserve transfers. So John, if you can speak to this one a bit.
Yes, so we're purchasing snow equipment. We're transferring money for solar arrays, and we're also, based on a decision in 22, I think, we're paying for the completion of the fire services review. But there's more detail that's involved, and I'll turn it over to the CFO.
Thank you. So as part of the 2023 capital budget, the town is purchasing winter maintenance equipment. And to facilitate that purchase, was part of the plan that we would use capital reserves. So we require $600,000 from the capital reserves towards that purchase. There's a piece of equipment that we're also buying, a loader, valued at $300,000. We do have a loan through the Municipal Capital Borrowing Board approved for that. However, how that the funding works through that is we have to purchase the equipment first, then at certain times during the year the board will contact us to find out if we have purchased it, and then they go to market to fill the debentures, and then we get the money at a future point in time. So we don't have control on when we get the money from the borrowing board. So as part of our arrangements with the bank, we do have the ability to get financing through the bank, which council did approve last year as part of our banking agreement. So that's still pending, that hasn't come into us yet. So we're asking to borrow 300,000 from the reserves as interim financing measure. That will be paid back when we get the pension money through. So that's the 900,000. The second transfer we're asking for is for the fire service review. Last year council approved that project from an addition that was funded through operating reserves. So that project is now been completed and the cost is just over 51,000. So we're asking for a transfer from our operating reserve to the general fund to pay for that. And then the last item is $139,000 from the sewage capital reserve into the general fund. This is to pay for the solar array that was constructed last year. Part of the funding, about $257,000, came from the Canada Community Building Fund, and the remaining fund was paid for out of the general operating funds. However, that solar array is owned and operated by the sewage utility, so now it has to pay back the general fund for that project. Hopefully that makes sense.
So I'll read the motion before we discuss. It's the motion of the Council of Bay-Westfield authorize the following transfers. This first bullet, transfer $900,000 from the General Revenue Capital Reserve into the General Revenue Fund for the purchase of winter fleet equipment. And the second bullet, transfer $51,404.28 from the General Operating Reserves into General Revenue Fund to reimburse operations for the purchase of the Fire Services Review. And third bullet, transfer $139,185.33 from the Sewage Capital Reserve into the General Revenue Fund to pay for the solar array from the Utility Reserve for provincial regulations. A motion? Councilor Buckland, second? Councilor Burkett? Any discussion? Questions? These are big items that we've talked about many times before. Alright, so all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Right, motion carried. We'll move off of finances and on to item 11F, which is the Canada Day Run 2023. So do you want me to read these first, or do you want to introduce? I'll just read them so you kind of know what's in the background of these details. There's two motions here. The first is that the Council of the Town of Bay-Westfield authorize the use of the following roads for the 5K Canada Day Run, starting from the River Valley Community Centre, going south on River Valley Drive, west on Allen Street, north on Woolstock Drive, and returning south on River Valley Drive to the River Valley Community Centre, utilizing support volunteers and staff positioned at all intersections to assist in the safe operations of the event for participants, residents, and visitors. And number two is that the Council of the Town of Bay-Westfield authorize the use of the following roads for the 10-mile Canada Day Run, starting from the River Valley Community Centre, going north on River Valley Drive, continuing north on Nerpus Road until 100 meters past Sunnyside Drive, returning south on Nerpus Road, continuing south on River Valley Drive to the River Valley Community Centre, utilizing support volunteers and staff positioned at all intersections to assist in the safe operations of the event for participants, residents, and visitors. Can I have a motion? Councilor McIntosh, second. Councilor Burkett? John, can you give us some, I guess, kind of self-explanatory on that?
Yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory. It's Canada Day Run. These are the roads they want to use. They've been working with our recreation program coordinator. Is there anything you want to add to this, Rick?
I actually think the biggest piece of note is that the organizer with Marathon by the Sea, stopping operations, sees a long-term future and feels there's a gap in the running community here. And part of his early vision is possibly to have Bay-Westfield moving forward 24, 25, 26, be part of a bigger vision that he has. So by supporting this, we're at least in the conversation to support a bigger vision.
This is a great run. I've done it a bunch of times, and it's been around for years. It's a good one. Any other questions, comments?
Are there people out ahead of time, like day before or 2 days before, and check the roads, make sure there's no potholes or something to trip over, or just get like over the run?
There's always problems.
They usually run on the sidewalks and short
sidewalk, okay.
And, yeah, so they try to stay on the edge.
They
You know,
put cones on it.
we're sweeping, sort of,
No, I already have that marked down to review each shoulder for. Yeah.
Oh, that's very good, good deal.
You must be blind, so you don't have to.
No, we just keep it safe, right? For-
Yeah, I would just like to echo what our rec director said. Alex has always run a very successful Canada Day run that's well attended. And, you know, if his vision of a marathon in Grand Bay-Westfield is successful, then that's gonna be huge for our community.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's carried. So the last one, under 11, is 11G, and as I mentioned earlier in the initial comments, the town is kind of run by volunteers and those who commit to different types of committees around. So this is about committee appointments. And I want you to give context before I read the names.
yeah, we had a great celebration of a lot of our volunteers. And, you know, it's the heartbeat of our volunteers that gives our community our character and makes it attractive. But council has 3 committees, and we're always recruiting. I know Age-Friendly Committee would like to have, I think, 2 or 3 more members. And so we have 2 people who've applied for that, Francis Duffy and Elva Arsenault. Then with the Community Vitality Committee, run by Councillor McIntosh Lawrence. We've had Andrea Connolly apply, and then finally the Community Grant Committee, where we're taking a new approach to distributing the community grant. We've had Danielle Timmons apply. So having said that, these are the people recommending. We still have advertising out for the PAC committee member that we need. We received 1 person so far, but we'll have to wait and see. But if council has any questions about any of these people, they've all filled out applications online, and there aren't any red flags.
I'll make the motion. We can discuss. It's committee appointments, that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield approve the new committee appointments for Francis Duffy and Elva Rose Arsenault to the Age-Friendly Committee. And 2, that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield approve the new committee appointment for Andrea Connolly to the Community Vitality Committee. And 3, that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield approve the new committee appointment for Danielle Timmons to the Community Grant. Motion? Councilor Lawrence, and second? Councilor Burke? Any questions, comments, or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's carried, so thank you to all of these individuals for stepping forward, and we look forward to working with them. So that's the end of 11, so we'll move on to number 12, which is bills for payment. And the motion here is that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield authorize the April 24th, 2023 bills for payment as presented in the amount of $693,209.92. I have a motion. Councilor Murphy, second. Councilor McIntosh Lawrence. Any questions on this one? Councilor Murphy?
I have a question. I just was wondering, number 32, where was the bouncy castle?
No, it's where Will, the bouncy castles plural, and other play apparatus for Canada Day.
Oh,
They'll
okay.
be at Greenwich Point, Canada Day. So these are deposits. So you didn't miss out on anything. Yeah.
Right.
This is just a deposit?
Sorry?
This is deposit, all is a deposit?
Just deposit. So make sure you take your grandchildren.
We have a bounce out already, so we're the first to go up there.
I thought you'd take them up there first and then
No.
roll the boat.
Councilor McIntosh.
Yeah, I just have a couple. Number 33, the 464,000. I'm just wondering for those watching at home if we could just recap this purchase. I know we've been over, but.
Yeah, the CFO spoke to it briefly. I'll get the chief to speak to it, but really it's the fire truck chassis.
Yeah, so we're paying for the chassis in two portions, or for the total fire truck in two portions. This is the first portion, which is the chassis, which was just delivered to the company that would build the actual body and the pump and compartments. And this was just a decision made by council when the truck was first purchased to go this route, because us financing the cost was cheaper than what it would cost us to have the company finance the cost for the next several months, because the truck will be finalized probably till August or September.
And just for council's information, we don't even know when we'll be getting money to cover the money that we've already put out for this from the province as part of the loan. So this what kind of makes our cash flow situation this month and next pretty tight. We have a lot of outgoing.
Yep, 53, the bylaw registration again. I'm just wondering if those are part of the local government form expenses that will be reimbursed.
I'm still waiting for clarification on this stuff. Unless the councillor has information from his day job.
And one more, $230 for the tennis net installation. I'm just wondering if this isn't something we can do in-house.
Yeah, so we, I know there's discussion between Parks and Works regarding doing this in-house, and couldn't make it work this spring. However, it's on everybody's work plan to be done in the fall and next spring, and so.
I have two items, Your Worship. Item number 18, Eastern Credit Management Services for the collection of delayed and overdue sewage accounts. Just wondering, is that a fixed fee? Is that a down payment? Or is that figure of $1,317 a percentage of what they collect? How does that work with that collection company?
It's a percentage, but I'll allow the CFO, get the CFO to answer the details.
Yeah, it's a percentage of the funds that are collected. We've found this avenue, when we get to a point where we've done all that we can, and this agency really does get some movement on a certain number of users. Once it goes to collections, they're very quick to come in and pay. So we've found it quite beneficial. Unfortunately, there's a small group that it doesn't require a little further action on, but it's definitely helped us clear up a good number of accounts.
That's great, thank you. And one more.
Sorry, I'd just like to add, Councillor, that this is an expense on top of sewage. So it's artificially increasing the price.
And item number 47, Safety First, $1,329 for signs. I'm just wondering what the signs are and where they're located.
They're mobile construction signs, so they're going to be used throughout the construction season or when there's something comes up. And I believe they're construction ahead and flagging ahead signs, right? So you're going to find them from one location to another.
Thank you.
Any other questions on? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Council. So we'll move on to number 13, consent agenda. The consent agenda consists of item A, affordable and available housing in Atlantic Canada. B, Kids 2022 impact report. C, Bay-Westfield CCBF report 2022. And D, YMCA of Greater St. John 2022 grant report. And the motion is that the Council of the Town of Bay-Westfield receive and file the consent agenda items for April 24th, 2023. Motion? Councilor Brown, second? Councilor Brown? Any discussion? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Opposed? Motion is carried. All right, so any consent agenda, so, I like this one, so I'm off the hook for this one tonight. So number 14, council report, so I will go, I guess, start on this side, so Councilor McIntosh Lawrence.
Thank you. So yeah, the past few weeks I just had a few meetings. April 12th, we had our monthly community vitality meeting. We basically just talked about upcoming events. So the big one was, even though it's quite far away, it was Canada Day because there's a lot leading up to that. So So we just talked about what we wanted to see continue and maybe some new things for Canada Day. We also talked about Rockwood Rank, which the community centre looks after, so that's going forward on May 13th. I think ticket sales are going well for that. We talk about weekly programming. Probably some people know about Brilliant Labs going on in the community through the schools. That's a great program for young kids. Also, we have a fitness class that started April 13th in the community. So I think that had a lot of interest. A lot of people taking part of that. We talked about our Unity Park Summer Music Series that will start in June? June? Yeah, starts in June. Yeah, so that was about it for, and we welcomed our new community vitality member, Andrea. That was her first meeting, so that was nice to meet her. And again, the Deputy Mayor mentioned last Thursday we attended the Volunteer Appreciation Night. That was a really special night to recognize the volunteers in our community and the 5 milestone recipients. And last week we had our monthly River Valley Community Center meeting, and the topic there was the rock rink. Oh, I just want to give out one more shout out to the River Valley Ladies Ball Hockey Association this year. They've got 4 teams, so they previously had 1 to 2 teams. So this year it's really popular, and I played my first game last night. It was really fun.
And she survived.
I survived.
Thank you.
Thank you. I also attended the Volunteer Appreciation evening. It was a great evening, and it just goes to show when you attend something like that and listen to some of the backgrounds, especially of the 5 who received the special accommodation. Volunteerism is the fabric of our community and every other community, and we're so blessed to have all the volunteers that we have. And I also attended the previous week the State of the City Luncheon in St. John, which was hosted by the St. John Region Chamber of Commerce.
We had an age-friendly meeting, and we're very excited about having 2 new additional people join our committee. And if anyone was out there that would like to still volunteer, we're still recruiting. And Debbie, Searle, and myself had a chance to renew the age-friendly binder, and Rick is compiling all that stuff that we provided him. We also had a presentation by a young lady who has come through the MBA program, and she is starting a home care business. Really nice lady, and so it was nice to see that another option is available for those aging in our community. And then I had a chance last night to see on the community page a lot of comments about council. And I did respond back as to how the tax rate was determined, and that we do not go around doing assessments. The assessments are done by the province, and we just set the tax rate. And there was a lot of discussion on garbage and garbage pickup, and there was a lot of comments about how we are spending our dollars. So I'd like to make sure that everyone is very aware that this is one of the most transparent councils I have ever sat on. And there are YouTube videos out there, up the yin-yang, from finances to council meetings, special council meetings. So if you can't tune in to tonight's meeting, you're able to tune in at your convenience anytime. And you're more than welcome to come here the night of our meeting. We've got all kinds of chairs set up, and there's not a soul sitting here except us. And so, my suggestion is, instead of asking the questions and going at council on Facebook, strongly suggest you pick up the phone and call one of the councillors, call the deputy mayor, call the mayor, ask them. Don't assume you know what's going on. Because I can tell you, for some of the comments, it really, really showed people were making assumptions without the facts. So, I'll talk to anybody, anytime. I love to talk, love to have a coffee. So don't say you can't get a hold of a councillor, because there isn't one person here who wouldn't talk to a citizen who wanted to ask questions. So that's my beef for the night, and I'm just gonna let it go from there.
Thank you, Councilor Mayor.
Hard to beat that one. I went with a few site visits to that flat over the month and just visit people on the streets, or talk about our streets, some of the improvements and stuff. And they was working on some firewood for their next recreational events for Stephanie, or some firewood, so they're pit. And then we had a narco kit from Wednesday, or narco kit week, so I missed the last one, so I didn't have no update from last week. So that's all for now.
Last Wednesday, I attended the State of the City of St. John, and it was interesting to hear all the achievements and meet some new people. And then last Thursday, the volunteer ceremony awards, which was really nice. I'd like to congratulate all the recipients once again. Saturday, which was Earth Day, we gathered a bunch of people and we put our work boots on and we cleaned garbage out of the ditches. So that was really fun. And I'd like to give a little shout out to Johnny London and his family, Tara, and his son Reed. They gathered over 10 bags of garbage from up around exit 80 and all along. He lives a little bit, I think, outside the Ward 2 area, but he's a doer. So I just want to give a little shout out to that, and that's all I have to say. Awesome. Thank you.
Listen, I kind of gave mine at the beginning, but I do want to build on what Councilor Day said. It's super important that community page kind of just goes, and we can't monitor it all the time. And I've mentioned this before, but we have a fantastic communications officer, a fantastic town website, and a fantastic town Facebook page, which has all of the information. And if you have a question, put it on there, because you will get an answer, and a good answer, and probably a link to a YouTube video where we talk about the answer and have a PowerPoint. So just that page is really hard, I think, for all of us, because we see things, but we can't monitor and respond all the time. So I just want everybody to remember that we do have official town resources out there that we'll respond to. So that's the council reports, and unlike usual, that's not the end. We actually have now the business arising from committee of the whole, which is the item we added to the agenda at the beginning, which is item 50A, the Housing Accelerator Fund application. So I'll ask John to speak to.
Councillor, if you don't mind, just for people who are interested, we have a YouTube video that's 3 hours long on the budget that we presented in November. And that's with all the leadership team taking turns presenting. And then in February, just the CFO and I presented for 2 hours on the budget. So there's lots of information there, plus the PowerPoint that explains all the stuff. 15A, yes. The Canadian government recently announced and has been rolling out what's called the Housing Accelerator Fund. And what they're trying to do is distribute, I think it's $4 billion, I'm drawing a blank right, $4 billion over the next, till 26, 27, to help address the housing shortage across Canada. Now, that's all great. However, in being able to apply, you need to have a number of items in place which the town does not have. One is a housing needs assessment completed. We do not have that. We do not have an action plan for housing. And so what I'm asking council for is an unbudgeted $12,000 to do phase 1 of a housing needs assessment and action plan. And what that'll do is provide us with the necessary tools to apply for the Housing Accelerator Fund so that we can address the housing shortage across our region and specifically within Grand Bay-Westfield.
Thank you, John. So I'll make a motion that we can discuss. The motion is that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield authorize the CAO to enter into an agreement with EVP to complete phase 1 of the proposal to develop a housing needs assessment and action plan for submission to the Government of Canada's Housing Accelerator Fund for a cost not to exceed $12,000. And that phase 2 be brought to council for deliberations for the 2024 budget. So I have a motion. Councillor Bellman, second? Councillor Buckle? And any discussion? I know Councillor Buckle, you might have some information on the Housing Accelerator.
A question at this point, just confirmation to John, through yourself. This $4 billion, is it matching funding that's required? Like if we get $100,000, would we have to come up with our own $100,000, or is it 100 cent dollars?
This is very seldom happens. This is 100 cent dollars. We do not have to match. And in fact, if we complete our items under budget, we don't have to return the excess dollars. We can reinvest those dollars into another housing initiative. However, the fund is very clear that there are specific benchmarks and goals that have to be reported against. And for an example, one of the things that we have to develop in our action plan is 5 goals over 3 items, right? 5 goals over 3 items. So they are very specific about what they want to see achieved, but there's no matching dollars required, which makes the return on investment on this one significant.
Thank you. And a comment to follow up. For our town to grow, we need housing and a housing action plan, and we don't have that right now. And I believe if we were successful in applying for this funding, that would put us well underway in developing that action plan for housing and maybe some seed money for acquiring land or infrastructure or whatever else is needed. So it's fundamental to our strategic plan, our population growth, and our target for increased population for our town. This is a no-brainer from my perspective. I would fully, when it comes time to vote, fully support this. It's very timely.
Any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No, motion is carried. This is an exciting one. Thank you. Thank you. All right, so the last one is item 16, adjournment. So the motion is that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield adjourn the meeting at 8:03 p.m. Councilor Murphy, second.